questions.
Hey guys, great seeing you again. 4 days away. Excited about where we are. Saturday, September 3rd, 12:01 kickoff against Maryland. We've had a long camp that's transitioned really into game preparation mode. We're now in a normal sequence of how we do things in a game week, and had a great mental Monday. Came back with a outstanding practice. We felt like today, a healthy mind and healthy team, and putting together that first and second down game plan, normal sequence of the game. Tomorrow we'll transition to some more situations, continue to build this game plan and put it together for a very, what we feel like is a very experienced and well-coached Maryland team by Coach Mike Locksley, offensive coordinator Dan Enos, and defensive coordinator Brian Williams. So we know we got a big challenge ahead of us, and we are excited about the challenge ahead of us and what we have to do.
For naming the starter, these were individual conversations that you guys had taken him aside to. What was it like telling him that he has the honor of starting, and how do you handle that conversation?
I think, everything starts with trust and transparency. We sit down with players really throughout the course of a year a number of times just to have that one-on-one communication with them. And sometimes, there's messaging that you have for 110 guys. There's maybe messaging that you'll have for offense, defense, or special teams. The quarterback's a unique spot and unique position. So we make sure we carve out enough time to on a pretty regular basis, have the one-on-ones, lay out the expectations, what we're looking for on film, hear from them and how their comfort level for what we're asking them to do, and Cole, along with Casey and Matt Myers, all did a really good job throughout training camp and really going back throughout the summer when we had OTAs. And Cole had a lot of consistency, and we named him the starter. We're really excited and proud to be able to do that, and he was excited to be named that starter, and the team responded very well to that.
When it comes to Maryland, it's no secret that Talia can obviously sling it through the air. How do you plan to try and chip away at that yardage?
Yeah, explosive passing offense, averaged over 300 yards passing a game last year. Really feel like they have a strong, very strong wide receiver core. The plan they put together with Coach Mike Locksley and Dan Enos is a very, very vertical passing attack. They can stretch the field horizontally as well. We know it's a big task at hand. We know it's going to be a challenge we're putting together. We feel like a really good plan to put our guys in a position to be successful. But it's all 11. Sometimes when you think of an explosive passing attack, you kind of shift. We just ended the last period. We kind of shift your mind to maybe just the secondary or just the back end of guys, but it's all 11 when you talk about sound pass defense. It starts up front. It starts with the big guys up front in the D line and our layers and levels on the second level, and making sure we stay over the top on the third level.
What's the process been like? Pivoting from preseason, competing for spots, to game week preparation.
Yeah, we lay out a plan over. When you look at the calendar over 8 or 9 months of where we are, starting back in January, how do we transition from an off-season preparation into spring football? What are the things that we need to emphasize in spring football? Because you can't emphasize everything, but you have to kind of lay it out in a very systematic approach. You take the spring practice and then you look at your summer, those months of June and July. What do you need to lay out and emphasize? What needs to be worked on? And then you transition yourself into training camp. And training camp really starts with yourself and looking at yourself at a multiple lenses. Because you have to make sure that the issues that you have or the issues that may present themselves with your own offense or defense or special team scheme get addressed first. And then over the course, there's a natural transition where you start applying then your scheme to an opponent and what they do, and now this is what you have to do against Maryland when we call this. So it's been a pretty smooth transition. Our guys have handled it really well. We felt like over the 3.5 weeks we had for training camp, and then the 10 days that we associated that we're in the middle of right now that we associated to Maryland preparation, we're in a good space.
Coach, week one prep is always a bit of a challenge for every college football coach. Maryland does bring a lot of their core guys back. Has it been a little easier than maybe in years past of trying to get your team ready for what they're going to see?
Yeah, 100%. I believe there's always going to be, a wrinkle, a play or two where a lot of the answers will be on film and film preparation. But then when you think about, when you lay out your scheme to your team, there's a lot of rules that are associated with, it's ABC, it's 1, 2, 3, it's 2 plus 2 is 4. So sometimes when you go on the field as a player, your rules have to take care of maybe a new play or scheme that you did not see. And that's very natural week one. When you kind of get into the meat of your schedule and you start transitioning into the later September, mid-October months, there's a lot more tape from the current season out there. You got maybe a little bit better feel of what people want to do. But really kind of still goes down back to yourself and your own preparation. We're going to be who we are. We're very confident in what we feel like, our offense and defense and ST identity is, and we want to see our identity continue to come to life versus a new opponent. But we're not going to change really the mindset that we have going into the game, although we know we have to prepare for what Maryland does from all three teams' perspective.
When it comes to that preparation, I know you mentioned their elite receivers like the Kings, Aaron, a lot of coverage to figure out. Are you able to really simulate that talent they have in practice, or is this more of a film-heavy preparation?
There's a balance to both. The answers to the test a lot of times are on film, but then you need the actual physical reps to nail down the details, and the detailing the work and making sure that, is it 2 yards outside the hash? Is it, top of the numbers, bottom of the numbers, and just making sure that we get to the specifics of what we want guys to do. So it's a very balanced approach. Obviously, film's a big piece of that, but, that's why, we go out there and we practice and make sure that we're getting the looks that we need to get to prepare us the right way.
You look at this as a kind of a statement game, take your team to the next level of look at us.
I really believe this, that we have 12 opportunities. We get 4 games in September, 4 in October, 4 in November that they have on the schedule. And I look at them very independently, every single one of them as a statement game. Every opportunity that we get on the football field to play, it's an opportunity to prove ourselves, to make sure that our identity of who we are shines through against whoever that opponent is. And not to give you any kind of like generic answer, but we really look at them as an independent evaluation of week 1 to week 2 to week 3. And then if we take care of all those weeks, then we get more weeks at the end of the season when we start talking about December into championship mode and bowl championship mode. But the same way that we would look at any opponent on the schedule, we really approach the same way against Maryland. Maybe new scheme and new plays and new players, but the approach for us is to go out there and play at an extremely high level, make sure that our identity is consistent, we shine through, that we keep our mental errors low, that we play very sound and clean, we have selfless effort from player to player, we strain to finish, and we compete and really work ourselves to a dominant mode against whoever that opponent is.
You look at it as the hardest week of your schedule in any way?
I don't know if you mentioned the hardest week. I'm not sure if we can mention that maybe one week or the next week is a hardest week. Every week has its own level of hard because every week carries its own set of success or adversity. And, sometimes a lot of success can be just as adverse as maybe some adversity that people maybe naturally more think of in terms of things maybe didn't go your way. So when you look at the course of the season and navigating, the entire 14, 15, or 16 weeks of the regular season, the postseason, as well as training camp, there's a ton of obstacles that are presented along the way that carry their own set of what we would say hard, and our acronym that we use is called HARD, handling adversity, responding to whatever that adversity is, and dominating. So successes can be adverse, failure can be adverse. They all have their own sets of adversity, but we have to make sure that we're matured throughout the season.
Being that it's the first week and the unknown we have in your team as an opponent, does that make it a harder week or more challenging in any way?
I think the same level of hard that we may have is probably equal or comparable for what they may have. We have a new coordinator. We have a lot of new that they're going to be shown with too. So it's not like, one team has an upper hand on the other in terms of what's presented to them. There's film out there on both teams in a number of different ways. I'm sure that they've, with a fine-tooth comb kind of gone through the X's and O's and who we are and what we do. We're no different than any other college program where we want to make sure that we detail out the plan and gather as much information as possible and then take that information and deliver it to our players in its simplest form to where it's digestible to our guys, where we can make it simple and they can go play fast. So just like we have new and news are presented to us, Maryland's in a pretty similar situation where news presented to them. Those things balance out. Really, the game's going to come down to execution. At the end of the day, first down, second down, third down, red zone, 2-minute short yardage, goal line, end of plays, chunk plays, last play of the game, last play of the half, backed up coming out, all the situations that present themselves in a game, and can we handle the situation as they come about in the game and execute when the execution is needed.
Defense has more returning starters, but you have a new coordinator. How much different is this defense going to be? What are you looking for this defense to do differently than it might have done last year?
There's a number of differences that we could probably lay out. The biggest thing is making sure that we play collectively as one. Everybody do their 1/11th. Everyone get really 11 hats to the football, and then get your eyes in the right place and do your job. There's really a selfless effort that we're looking for from every single player that touches the football field, where we understand that if you're on that football field, everyone is counting on you to do your job, perform at a high level. September 3rd at 12:01 is when kickoff begins. We're in preparation mode all the way up until kickoff, and when 12:01 hits, it's about performance and execution and making sure that we perform at an extremely high level.
The football program asked leadership group yesterday, will there be captains on a rotating game by game?
Great question, Rachel. Yeah, so we are going to nominate game captains for the week. Every week we will, based off of performance and execution throughout that week, similar model to what we had last season. So every week you'll see 4 game captains for that week. At the end of the season, we will nominate 4 permanent captains for the entire 2022 season. We allowed the 110 guys on the roster to vote on a leadership group or leadership council, which they felt like these were the strongest guys that on a consistent basis presented themselves to be the leaders on the team. The guys that got nominated, you saw the graphic that got tweeted out. It's extremely high honor, a lot of responsibility for those guys. But that leadership group is going to be consistent throughout the year with 4 new game captains every single week.
Coach, you mentioned Maryland's passing attack, obviously, but your passing attack very revamped, new quarterback, whole new group of receivers. I guess how do you expect those guys to gel, and how big are they going to be for you guys? I guess Maryland, not only week 1, but
yeah, great question. That's a big area that we wanted to make sure that we addressed in the offseason in terms of college football. A lot of it is the quarterback position. It's making sure that you're disciplined on both sides of the ball, no undisciplined penalties, making sure that you really play with a great selfless effort, execute, and then a big piece of college football and the success of college football is explosive plays. And if you look at the rate of explosive plays to the operation and the success of an offense, and then ultimately to the success of the team, those things go hand in hand, limiting and eliminating those explosive plays on defense and creating as many explosive plays on offense. And we feel like we're in a really good position with the receivers that we have, and as well as the tight end position to stretch the ball vertically down the field. Really like what our guys are doing up front from an offensive line position, and Coach Shane Montgomery and how he's using that vertical passing attack that it's going to have to be a big part of our offense the entire season through.
Coach, to build on that, so we got all these new players and new coaches alike. How's that team chemistry coming along?
We feel very strong. That's why we go play the game. Right, that's why you go week by week and you go out there and the film's going to tell a lot of the story. But really, it's going to give you a little bit of maybe evidence at the end. But throughout the course of a season, there's so many moving parts and moving obstacles. There's hundreds of things that happen throughout the course of a day, the course of a season. Where what we're looking to do is make sure as a coaching staff that we make the next right immediate decision. And we ask our players all the time, hey, do the next right thing in the moment. Make that next right decision. And we know every week and every game is going to have its own set of challenges, but how we respond in the moment to those challenges and how we prepare ourselves leading up to that moment is really what it comes down to.
Strictly by coincidence that you're opening at Maryland, which is James Patterson's hometown, in his final season on this team.
Yeah.
Have you talked to James at all about what
We
the
have.
emotions are going to be like?
We have. James is one, he's experienced. He's an outstanding leader, outstanding player. Obviously, I think he's excited to go back to an area that he's from. He's from the Maryland area, and we have a number of guys. We have double-digit guys on this roster from the Maryland area. It's a big recruiting area for us, just that DMV, Northern Virginia, Maryland area, that 495 loop and corridor. And I know James is extremely excited. He knows ultimately it's going to come down to him making plays and executing and making sure that the the entire team. This isn't James Patterson versus Maryland. We know it's Buffalo versus Maryland, but sure, there's a real natural excitement, and I'm excited for him. He's a guy that's done everything right, that's worked his tail off to put himself in a really good position to be successful. And I know this game means a lot to him, not just because it's a game in college football, but also because you are going back to home and you always want to play well at home.
How much playing in Maryland for the first time since 1994? How does that help your recruiting in that state?
I think anytime we get to go back and be visible to an area that we think is a strong recruiting footprint, and not just be visible, but be visible and have success. Even like you look at last year going down to ODU and having that success on the road, those things help because there's a ripple effect that's sent from player to player, really from a recruiting level of, hey man, did you see what Buffalo did? Did you see what those guys did on TV and or maybe in person even? So we know, from a recruiting standpoint, every time we're on TV or anytime we're in a footprint that is geographical to an area that we recruit, we know it's important for us to play well. But ultimately, regardless of who we play or where we play, we want to put our best foot forward, prepare ourselves, and go win.
Will you have a full travel roster going to Maryland with any preseason injuries, any roster changes?
Great question. We're not going to get too much into those things. We feel healthy and we're in a good space. Thanks, guys.